Stephen Willis and Clint Yogi.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Oh my goodness, I'm so glad to see all of you. My name is Matthew Packwood. I'm director of the Oregon Origins Project. First, a reminder, please silence your cell phones, and there is no photos or videos during the show. We begin by offering a land acknowledgement and a call to action. The Portland metro area is the traditional homeland and fishing and gathering range of tribes throughout the region. We honor the peoples who have cared for the land since time immemorial. Tribes of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians, Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation, Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, Confederated Tribes and Bands of the Yakima Nation, Cowlitz Indian Tribe, and others. The Portland metro area today is home to the 9th largest urban Native American population in the US, descended from at least 380 tribes from across the country. Oregon Origins Project seeks to lift up and support Indigenous peoples in Oregon. We ask you to join us in honoring and supporting them through a donation to one of the Indigenous organizations listed on the action card you received at the door. Our thanks to tonight's event sponsors, our lead sponsor, Ronni Lacroute, the Reed College Master of Arts and Liberal Studies program, the Reed College Dance Department, Office of the Dean of the Faculty, and the Office of the President. It's an honor for me tonight to introduce tonight's MC, Acosia Red Elk. Acosia is an enrolled member of the Umatilla Tribe of Northeastern Oregon. She is a 10-time world champion jingle dancer and a world-renowned performing artist. And in 2024, she received the Doris Duke Artist Award in dance. She is also a yoga instructor, snowboarder, glass artist, cultural teacher, and wellness advocate. Acosia is known for public speaking, storytelling, tribal dance performance, indigenizing fitness, teaching yoga from a tribal lens, and teaching powwow dance to tribal youth across Turtle Island. She is passionate about sharing the practice of yoga and universal movement as a way to heal from historical and intergenerational trauma. Acosia is the creator of Powwow Yoga, a fusion practice that braids together tribal dancing and yoga for a well-rounded workout with an indigenous approach to wellness. She leads classes with a 7th-generation approach, teaching that everything should be done with a sustainable mindset to protect what is sacred. Acosia encourages all people to recognize the indigenous knowledge within them so that they can continue to build bridges and protect Earth's resources for future generations. Please welcome Acosia Red Elk.
Hats Palawat, good evening. How is everybody? We are so honored to be here to share time and space with you tonight, to share about our cultures and traditions from Oregon. Tonight we gather to honor women gatherers. Tonight we will be talking about the way women gather their materials for basket making, the way that they gather their materials for dressmaking, and the way that we gather our jingles and our materials for our regalias as well, and also the gathering of the stories. All of our traditions are passed down through oral histories. Tonight is a really beautiful way to share that with you all, as we will be sharing heart to heart, person to person with our words and in person with one another. It's an honor to be here to talk about women gatherers. Tonight, we celebrate the living traditions and creative expressions through storytelling, dressmaking, basketry, and dance. I really want to just have us take a moment to give thanks for the ability to move our bodies, to travel, to be able to make it to the gathering. It is such a privilege to be sovereign in our body, to be self-governing. It's important for us to have a healthy body and a healthy mind so that we can continue to make it to eldership, to be able to share all of these things that we've been gathering to pass on to the next generations. We know that we can build bridges through art, through traditions, through cultures, and through sharing space in that way. How can we move forward to take care of our resources or protect those things if we're not first forging good relationships with one another? Each tribe has their own word for 7 generation philosophy. Our tribes from the Plateau region call that Tumanuit's Law. And Tumanuit is creator. And Tumanuit's Law says that we must protect our first foods, what most people call resources. But they're not resources to us, they're relatives. And they are a part of our origin stories and our creation stories. And they were here before we were here. They are the reason that we are here. They sustain us life. All tribal cultures are food-based cultures, meaning that everything that we do revolves around our traditional foods. Tonight you will see all these crafts and stuff that people are making through these land-based plants and medicines and materials that come from earth. It's an honor to be here tonight to share that with you guys. First, I just want to we get nervous up here. And me and Matthew were talking about how nervous we get. I was like, tell them you're nervous. Break the ice, And I was like, I'll just tell them, I was picturing all of you guys at a powwow dancing, and it made me laugh. I just want to start the evening by taking a couple of deep breaths, and we're going to do it in a different way tonight. We're going to take a deep breath, and we're going to exhale a sound. Native people make sounds. We have different sounds that we make when we're happy. When something is funny, we always say, eh. So I want us to take a deep breath in, and we're going to exhale and say, eh. And I want you to picture and imagine that your neighbor said something really funny. So take a deep breath in. Eh. Another thing that we say is, Anna. And that's when somebody does something crazy or funny. So we're going to take a deep inhale, and we're going to exhale. Anna. Ready? Inhale. Anna. Yee. Good. Give a little war whoop. Yee. All right. We want to give thanks for everybody for taking the time out of their night to join us tonight. Tonight, our first culture bearer comes from the Umatilla tribe. Her name is Jacy Sohappy. Jacy Sohappy, Tamamno Ilp Red Hummingbird, is an enrolled member of the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Reservation, born and raised in the Mission Pendleton area. She descends from the Cayuse, Nez Perce, and Yakima tribes, and grew up in the tribal longhouse traveling Indian country on the powwow trail and medicine dances. Jacy learned how to preserve her cultural identity and teachings from her grandmother, Loretta Lonnie Alexander Pinkham. Following in her footsteps as a gatherer, seamstress, and painter, she is dedicated to preserving her culture for future generations and creating with good intentions for those that will wear her creations. Her creative outlets include sewing, beading, traditional clothing for the longhouse and ceremonies, and contemporary styles for everyday wear. I've also seen some of Jacy's beautiful paintings. She works with many different mediums. Jacy is the traditional arts manager at Crow Shadow Institute of the Arts. I grew up as a powwow dancer, coming into the powwows as a teenager. Jacy was always alongside her grandmother, who was at every single powwow, carried a lot of the traditional teachings, showed up and dressed her best at every occasion that she showed up to. And I've always witnessed Jacy doing the same. She always dresses very beautiful in her regalia, shows up very proud of who she is. So let's welcome Jacy Sohappy.
Tatskalawit. My name is Jacy, like Acosia said. I'm really excited to be here. I'm a little bit nervous. It was weird when people ask you to come talk about yourself. And I'm like, don't say that. Say you want me to talk about my stuff, not myself. I'm going to start off with talking a little bit about where I came from. I come from a really strong line of Native women. I'm here with my mom, Shanna, my sister Cheyenne, and my daughter Layla. And my mom is in the picture here holding me with my great-grandma and my grandmother. So these were the matriarchs of my family, and these are people that I look up to and people that I'm still trying to impress today. Even though these women don't walk the earth with us anymore, I know that they're watching me all the time. And I can hear my grandma telling me, add this, add that, in my artwork still today. So I'm really glad that I can still hear her voice because she still leads the way for me. So I'm really excited that I was blessed with so much knowledge from so many women, so many teachers, so many relatives that were willing to pour into my cup so that I could come here and share with you and lots of other people that I do throughout my life, in my job, at home, in my sewing room. Sometimes it doesn't feel like I'm giving back, but I know that these people poured a lot into me, and I know a lot more than I think that I know. So that's why I think people come and ask me to talk. So I'm just gonna go with that. This is another picture of my Puch. Puch is great grandma. She was an avid beater. She did everything. She sewed, she bead, she weaves, she collected food, she dried corn. They called her a master beater, and she didn't think that she was a master at it. It was just something she did because she wanted her family to be beautiful. So my grandma told me this one story about her, that she had seen all these women lined up on the wash in the longhouse where we pray. And all these women are dressed up beautifully. And she's like, oh man, look at those women. Look at all of their stuff. They must be loved. And that meant something to me. She poured all this love into these creations that she's making that get to hang on my back and hang on my daughter's back. And my daughter gets to be hugged by my Puch when she's wearing these dresses. And this love is getting poured down, and she didn't even get to meet it. She worked so hard because she loved us, and she didn't even know us yet. And I want to work that hard. I want my dresses in 100 years for my daughter's daughters to be wearing these, and they go, oh my gosh, my grandma made this long ago, and they can talk about me the way that I talk about her, because she's important to me. And she told us what family meant to each other, and it sunk in. And so that's why I create the things that I create, because I don't want us to be forgotten. People try to make my people be quiet, and I don't have to be quiet. So, and I'm a good talker too. So, this is my Katsa. This is one of her favorite dresses. Makes me a little bit emotional. So she got this dress, and she took it apart because it was falling apart. And she took it all the way apart and put it all the way back together. And dentalium is really, really hard to work with. It's a really, really fine shell. And so I made a couple dentalium dresses, and I said, never again, only for my family, because it's so hard work. It's such tedious hard work. There's so many steps, and each step takes a long time. And so I said, I'm gonna save that for my family. It's that, all the hard work, I want it to go to my family. I want it to go to me. I don't want it to sell it to my next door neighbor, or, I think it should be my family because I worked really hard to earn these skills. She had a sewing room, and that's where I hung out. That's where I learned to sew, where I sewed my finger a couple of times. I got stuck in the machine a couple of times. But I don't remember the first time I sat at a sewing machine because it was always available. She was always there. And I always got to watch over her shoulder. It wasn't necessarily, come over here and let me show you how to make this. She said, you want to learn? You come hang out. And I wanted to hang out. I wanted to cut up maybe stuff I wasn't really supposed to cut up. But she gave me the opportunity. She let me be me. And she let me express myself, and this is how I get to express myself. This is a drawing I did of her. I drew all her favorite things, her favorite bag, her favorite blanket, her favorite dress, and her favorite hat. And my mom has this tattooed on her arm by a native artist. So it means a lot to me. She means a lot to me. And this is a picture of us all dressed up in her dresses, my sister Cheyenne, me, my mom, my sister Lexi, and my daughter. And then these are some of the things that I make. What I started off with making is I started sewing. I used to make weird shirts for myself to wear at my band concerts. And And then my niece, one time she asked me, I want to be Indian sharp. I want to be Indian sharp for homecoming. I want this skirt with overlay on it and blah, blah, blah with sequin overlay. There was sequins all over my sewing room for months. I still was sweeping them up when we moved out of that house. And then I started beading when I was in high school. It was really tedious. Beading was really hard for me because I don't like to sit still. Sewing, I can get up and I can sit down and I cut it and then I iron it and I'm not sitting still. When I bead, you have to sit still, so I have to put all of my stuff around me first. I have to have my couple of drinks, a couple of snacks, and make sure that I'm sitting there because I'll get up and my breaks will be longer and longer, like 2 months or 4 months. So these are some of the hats that I've made, caps that I do. I like to bead a lot of caps, and that's my gift to my nieces and nephews for them graduating because I'm proud of them. I don't want them to have to pay for that. I'm proud of them. So I want them to look good and feel good walking down the aisle and standing up in front of people and saying, look what I made it and I look nice and I feel good. I want to be Indian sharp when I make it there. So this is a hat that I made for my cousin Casey. I call him Casey Poop Wine Coop. He might not appreciate that. But I made his mom a hat, and then his mom contracted me to make this hat. And these are some moccasins I made for my nephew. And then this is just a little collage of, I love doing ribbon work. This skirt, I had to make it just for tonight. So ribbon is my favorite part. I always have to do like the neck of my dress and other things like that before I do the ribbon, else I might not get the dress all the way done because I'll do the ribbon stuff and then I won't do the other stuff. But ribbon is one of my favorite things. It's tedious also, but it's something that me and my grandma like to make sure the corners were sharp and we make sure all our lines. I'm really OCD, so it probably helps me out though. And then a ribbon shirt that I made for my Uncle Philip. And then these are some of the wool dresses that I make. It was really an honor that one of my friends and my teachers, Bobby Connor, asked me to make my first wool dress, and it was a year or so after my grandma had passed. And so I was like, I've never made a wool dress yet. And she's like, oh, you can, come on, I'll go get you some wool. She didn't really let me say no. So that's where I jumped in, and she told me that she knew I was good enough to make it, that she knew that I could succeed and it was okay for me to do stuff when my grandma wasn't here anymore, and that I could pass on, I could pour into other people's cups. So I started creating, and then it just kept going from there. And one of my favoriteest part about creating a dress is I don't really know what it's gonna look like before I start. I get the wool, I lay it out a couple times on the table because I'm too scared to cut it the first time usually, especially when it's expensive wool, Teton wool, $80 a yard wool. But then they come to life and they get to tell me what they want to be. And I get to watch them go out and dance on the floor, and I get to watch them get passed down from family members to family members, and it feels really good. Like, I know what my grandma was talking about now when she said, they must be loved. They must be loved. Like, I understand it because I love making these dresses, and it almost makes me feel better when people are wearing them and they don't know that it's me that made them. So I always told my grandma, I want my artwork to be famous, but not me. I want to watch people see my stuff, but I don't want them to know it's me. But now it's getting easier to accept the compliments, because that was kind of the hardest thing, because I'm kind of an introvert. I like to be in my sewing room with loud music or just hanging out at home. So I'm glad that sometimes my introvertedness of creating this helps me get out and talk about it with other people, because I think that other people want to know or want to create and they don't know where to get started. So email me at Crochetto. These are 2 dresses that I made for twins right before Roundup last year, and I just thought they were so cute, I couldn't not share them. And then this was one of the infamous Teton wool dresses that I unfolded and folded up this wool so many times before I actually cut it out. And then I wanted all the pretty pieces put in the picture before I actually put it all together. That's one of Shelley Minthorn's. And then this is at Joey Lavador's first, let me backtrack a little bit. So my first weaving workshop was when I was 12 years old with my grandma. And that's when I first started weaving with my teacher, Joey Lavador. And then I started working at Crochetto last April. And my first workshop being a host at Crochetto was with Joey Lavador. And so I made it full circle. We both cried at that workshop, and him and his brother Jim told me how proud they are that I finally made it to Crochetto. So I'm really glad that my teachers are pushing me to the forward, because I didn't know that I had something that people wanted to listen to. And so I'm really glad that my teachers are pushing me forward and encouraging me to share what I know also, because I didn't know that I knew so much. I live a very Indian life. I work in an Indian environment. I live in an Indian home. So when people talk about that they didn't know, I didn't know either. I didn't know outside of my circle. I didn't know that other people didn't know so much about us as Indian people, and how Indian my life was, I guess, compared to other people's. So I'm like, yeah, I go in my sewing room, I weave, I sew, I bead every day. You know, I pray every day. I just didn't know that other people didn't know how I lived or how we lived as Indians today. And so it's opening my eyes, especially working at Nez Perce Wallowa Homelands. I'm the community engagement director also for Nez Perce Wallowa Homelands. It's a lot of educating people about who we are today, and that we live in color. I'm not just a black and white photo. My ancestors are black and white photos, but they fought for me to stand here today. So, and we live in color. But this, back to this photo, sorry. This is my basket on the left, and then my daughter's basket on the right. So this is her first basket workshop with Joey Lavador too. So I thought it was really cool that it all got interconnected, and it made me emotional a little bit. And this is Joey standing in the middle, and then these are all the students we had, and that's Katsy's mom there on the far left. Joey. I just thought this was a really aesthetic picture of the gallery, so I had to share. And then these are some of the things I created. My cousin Tut, Layla, my niece Lotus, and that's her native sharp dress. And I made all of those skirts except for one. And these pictures are kind of the reason that I make the things that I make. These are the fun things I like to make, and I like to watch my family out there being in my stuff and feeling good about the stuff, and how I create and how I make sure my thoughts are good when I'm sewing for these people. Because whatever I sew, however I'm feeling, whatever I'm putting into these while I'm sewing, those people are gonna feel that when they're wearing them. So my grandma also taught me to be very intentional with my thoughts. Sometimes it's a little bit harder. I do listen to Crime Junkie quite a bit too when I'm crafting, but not to be feeling sorry for myself or mad or sad, or I don't want to bead these things and for my daughter to wear them and for her to feel that way. I'm hoping for the best for her. I'm hoping for her to have a happy and healthy life. I'm thinking of the people that she meets and hoping that she's going to have good experiences, and that she wants to go wear this stuff more because I made it. This is my nephew McKinley in his new shirt. This shirt also has a matching dress that matches my daughter so that they could match. They probably don't appreciate that as much as I do. My daughter, she was the Happy Canyon Princess for 2004, my brother and my niece and my nephew. And then this is at Lauren and Layla's appreciation dinner. My niece Lauren was also the other co-Happy Canyon Princess. And Lotus, my niece, was last year's Happy Canyon Princess, and then their uncle Josiah. And then this is Layla and Lauren up in Wallowa, up in Joseph right after the parade. And I just think that this is such a cool picture, because it could be set in any time. So it could be 200 years ago. It could be yesterday. And I just think it's so cool because some of the things that she's wearing are the things that I wore when I was Happy Canyon Princess in 2002. And so it's just weird how time passes, and that I'm almost 40 years old and I feel like I'm just got off that horse myself. So I think it's really cool that my nieces and my nephews, that we instilled this into them too, and they want to fight for our people to make it too. And they're in my sewing room helping me cut out patterns, and now Layla has a beading desk next to my beading desk in my sewing room, and I get the opportunity to give back, and it makes me feel really good that this is the reason that I work so hard for these moments like this. This is my brother Eric. And then in this coat, that's one of my favorite pictures. And then this coat is this coat here. And this is the Native American College Fund blanket that was gifted to Layla and Lauren. And I made 2 capotes, and they're reversible with wool binding. So I was really impressed with myself because I didn't know if I was going to pull that off, being reversible. I was like, oh yeah, a coat? What if I made it reversible though? And I just try to stress my own self out more by doing that. And then this is one of Layla and Lotus's pictures. It's just one of my favorite pictures of them. And then the reason I create so much, this is on graduation day, and this cap is really special to me. So this cap has beads that were passed down to me from my mom, that were beads that were my grandma's and my great-grandma's. So there is beads of 4 generations of women before Layla that are beaded into this cap in size 13 beads. 13s are the pretty small. 11s go pretty fast, which is what these other things are beaded with. But this took me a long time, and I poured a lot of my heart and my soul into this. I love my daughter so much that I just want her to know that she's loved, and this is how I show it. And I know that it's working because sometimes the things that she says, I know that I'm doing a good job. At one of her Happy Canyon interviews, she's like, if it's not for me, it's okay because the Creator didn't need it for me. If I don't happen to get this and I want to try out next year, I will if the Creator lets me know. And I was like, I'm so glad that her heart is open to the Creator. That it's easier to put your choices in front of the Creator instead of say, is this better for me? Or is this choice better? Or is this choice better? But if I put it in front of the Creator and I say, I picked this because, I don't want to have to explain that decision. I want my book when I get to meet the Creator and I give him this book of my life. I don't want to have to explain it. I want to say, here's my book. Check out my book. And not say, oh wait, on this page though, I did this because of this. You know, like I don't want to have to explain that. And as my life goes on, the choices get better and better, and now I have a good choice and a better choice and this choice, and it's not a bad choice and a good choice anymore. I'm getting good choices and good choices. I'm like, oh, what a difference, you know, because I'm just doing the next right thing, the next thing that I know that the Creator would have my back. I'll just talk about a couple of these things really quick before I wrap up. This was one of the skirts that I did for a fashion show a couple years ago, and then also that went along with this evening gown. This was the first evening gown that I've ever made, and so I was pretty impressed with myself that I did overlay, and it has pockets. What woman doesn't love that? So I ended up with the ribbon, and then I also added super tiny brass sequins. And so my daughter wore this in one of the Northwest fashion shows. They just had it in Portland 2 nights ago, but this was last year's show that I did. This is the dress that was on the flyer, and this is the dress that I made for my niece, Lauren Gold. She has beadwork, so I incorporated those colors into theirs. And this dress is the one that I put the most shells on. So this is one of the heaviest dresses that I've made. So I didn't want to do hang downs on it because I thought it would be even heavier for her to wear. She'd just be sweating around out on the powwow trail with her black wool dress on. These are the moccasins and leggings that I made for my daughter. I actually just finished these leggings a week ago, so Layla could wear them for the Clearwater powwow. Wow. And then this is my first set also that I made leggings, cuffs, and then a headband to match, and that's what she wore for Happy Canyon. And then a back bag that I made, so this would go on the back of your belt or on the side of your belt here. And I made this at a workshop with Kellen Trinall. I was really glad that I got to steal some of his time and have him do a workshop for us at Crochetto. And then these are most of the baskets that I finished in the past about year and a half. This basket I made in honor of my grandma. Her favorite colors were turquoise and purple, and she liked polka dots, and we like polka dots a lot too. So I started this basket, and we went to Gathering of Nations this year. We road tripped it down, me, my daughter, my sister, and my niece. And the bottom of the basket took me almost 10 hours to complete on the way to Albuquerque. So that was my whole job in the back, so I wasn't stressing out about the drivers. And then we just completed a basket hat workshop with Michael Ray Johnson, and this is my first hat that I've ever done. I think it's really cute, but it's really small. You know, you gotta find a little kid with a really little head to fit it, but it looks really nice when it's not on somebody's head. And then just a couple of my little tiny baskets. This has really little tiny twine, and I made a little Appaloosa on here. I don't really think out my patterns before I make them. I just kind of go along with it, and then his legs turned out a little bit shorter than I thought, but he's an Appaloosa and he's a mountain horse, so I thought I better make him a basket though, since he has short legs that he can carry his stuff in. So those that go together. And Acosia, thank you guys for your time, and thank you for letting me share a little bit of my story.
Acosia, thank you so much, Jacy. I took some notes. Jacy's work is made with love for the most important people in her life. And growing up with Native people, my grandmother would always say, "You young people throw the words 'I love you' around so much." We never threw those words around. We showed each other how much we loved each other by making things for one another, by doing things for one another, by cooking for one another and taking care of each other. She spoke about carrying on our regalias that were handed down, and how, she hopes that 100 years from now that her descendants will be wearing those regalias. I wanted to wear this dress. Tonight I'm presenting Jingle Dance, but I wanted to wear this buckskin dress today because it is who we are. These are our traditional dresses, but this dress is almost 100 years old. And it came from a trade that my grandmother did with one of our old chief's wives. And the dress was a plain dress, and she added the horse trapping beadworks in here to make it fit my sister and I. So this dress is really old, and I wanted to share it with you, and I think it just really played into the part of her talking about, we hope our regalias will last that long and that they will be worn by our descendants for many years from now. She also talked about, everything she talked about was like she wants her family to look good. And we all know that when you look good, you feel good, and when you feel good, you do good. Everybody knows that, and we know that when we can dress our young ones in nice regalia, that they will feel really good about who they are. They'll be more confident in who they are, and it really gives them identity. We are still here, living history, all of these things, the way that she carries herself, the way that she lives her life day to day, being a traditional woman living in the modern world, living by all these different laws, is just, it says so much about how much we've endured and been through as a people. 500 years and we are still here, a living history. Ribbon skirts are native fashion, and the picture of the girls jumping like that, I was like, ribbon skirt power. Ribbon skirts are really native fashion, and ribbon skirts, a lot of women will show who they are when they're not in full regalia by wearing their ribbon skirts and wearing them proudly. I also wanted to talk about how she was talking about the way that her whole thing was about the way that she makes her things and puts good thoughts into everything is another thing that Native people are always taught, that even when we handle our foods or cooking foods for our family at night, that we know the energy is passed from one thing to another. And so it's just really beautiful to hear her talk about that and all of these things, and also the way that her grandmother Ronni had taught her all of these things. I also wanted Layla to stand up, and I wanted to just have a big round of applause for her because she just finished up her whole year of being Happy Kenyan Princess. And she did such a good job. I'm getting goosebumps and I'm gonna cry, but like the way we represent ourselves is really important, especially in cowboy culture, because people can be mean. And if you really are proud of who you are, it's gonna show and people will respect you. And her and Lauren did such a beautiful job. It was just, I was super proud to witness that. So thank you. Thank you both for being here. All right. Our next culture keeper that we are bringing up is Beth'Ann Gipson. Beth'Ann is a traditional basket maker of the Cow Creek Band of Umpqua tribes of Indians in southern Oregon. She also makes powwow regalia, ceremonial regalia, ribbon skirts, and traditional jewelry, and is a singer and gatherer as well. She is the chairwoman of the annual South Umpqua Traditional Intertribal Powwow held in July. Beth'Ann has worked with a variety of master basket weavers from the Karuk and Yurok tribes, whose traditional lands in Northern California and Southern Oregon border those of the Cow Creek Band of Umpqua Indians. Master basket weavers Wilverna Reese, Alice Lincoln Cook, and Lena Hurd are her mentors. She also studied with Dr. Margaret Matheson, who has been active in revitalizing Native basket making in Western Oregon. A member of the California Indian Basket Weavers Association, Beth'Ann is involved in revitalization efforts for her tribe. Between 2022 and 2024, she received Traditional Arts Recovery Program Awards from the Oregon Folklife Network for mentorships, apprenticeships, and to help her people learn about their traditions. Gipson is currently working on a degree in ethnobotany and anthropology. She is proud to be carrying on basket making traditions that are gradually making their way back into her community. Let's give a big warm welcome to Beth'Ann Gipson.
Thank you very much. So Dahodadu, Beth, Quadit, Nahankwa, Donna, Edite, Myrtle Creek, Baham, Gal, Bahamte. I am bringing back my language, so sorry. But my name is Beth Gipson, and I come from the Cow Creek people, and I live in Southern Oregon. Mostly what I would like to talk about is my basketry tonight. Like she said, I do follow a lot of traditions, and I didn't always grow up on those traditions. You know, we lost a lot of it. I shouldn't really say lost, but it was sleeping a long time. And so it's taken me many years to do a lot of research and documentations to get where I am today. And I can just say I know it's going to get even better for the next 7 generations. So I'm excited about it. I'll be showing some gathering pictures. I don't know what I was thinking. My eyes look like I'm like all bugged out, but so I was, this was over at the coast where I go to gather with some friends and family over there. I was gathering some spruce roots. I'm pretty sure my gathering partner, my husband, probably took this shot, and I was looking up, he caught me. So just running back real quick, my background with basketry. Back in 2012, Tabitha Johnson, Mattia now, but was running our, she was managing our culture department, and she reached out to the membership and asked if there was anybody that would be interested in bringing back our basketry, and because it had slept for a good almost 100 years. And I was like on it. I'm like, ooh, this is my thing. I love the outdoors, you know, let's check it out. Let's see what it's all about. And so we got together, and she had gotten a grant to meet up with the Karuk members and Yurok members, Verna Reese and Lena and Alice Lincoln Cook, and talked about how we're going to bring this knowledge back. And so we met up with them, and it was wonderful. We had our first class, and we talked about things. I never did finish my very first basket. I look at it and I'm like, it's hideous. But it's my reminder of how far I've come. This was supposed to be an acorn mush bowl. This one basket on this whole table, it's not mine, it's my friend Dina Dodd's, but this is how it was supposed to look. So I have on top of my basket case, I have all my burden baskets up there, and I keep this one as my reminder up there, just to show me how far I've come since then. So I'm working on about 13 years right now. And so in the beginning, it was an eye-opener. So there was only like 7 or 8 of us. We met at the block house behind Seven Feathers Hotel and Casino Resort, and we got to meet Verna. You know, we got the rundown. You know, you be careful. She's old school. She slap your hand if you do something wrong. You know, we heard all these stories, so we were a little bit nervous. And then little Lena heard, my buddy Lena, and so she gave us the rundown that there's no handouts. If you're going to learn this, you're going to learn it the right way. There's no purchasing your materials. You're going to learn what your materials are, when you're going to gather them. You've got to manage those plants and be a steward of the land. And that's going to take a few years. And we're like, oh, okay, a few years, okay. I just want to weave, you know, I want to learn all this. And then she says, and once you find all your native plants, which will help you, it's going to take a few years, we've got to either bring back traditional burn, or you're going to trim those back, because things have been sitting for almost 100 years, so they're woody, they're going to break. So me and my husband did a lot of travel time around our mountains and in our areas, and she says, and once you get those going, then you've got to take a few years to gather enough materials in order to have projects, because you're going to need, we work with like 10 different materials. So I'm like, whew. And then you've got to let those cure so that they become stronger. And I'm like, okay, about a year. And I'm like, I can't touch them for a year? Okay, I'm dedicated, because I'm really into this. I knew right away, it clicked right away. So yes, things take time. I wanted to show the woodwardia, because it is one of my favorite to gather. I look like I'm in my pajamas here. My husband built a platform because it loves water, so there's always like a ditch of running water. So I'm walking actually on a platform. But it took a long time to find, even talking with Margaret Mathewson, she didn't think that we used chain fern, the woodwardia, because she'd never seen it around our areas. And so after scouting around, we were noticing certain things, but we found this particular area not far from where we signed our treaty. And it had a massive amount of 1-mile-long areas. And if they're that big, that tells me my people were there. And we had big discussions on it. And one day, my husband and I were gathering in another part in the reservation, what we thought was the same woodwardia plant, but every time we always take all the leaves off because there's seeds on the back of that, and we leave that behind to keep it growing. And we never take too much. And every time I tossed the big stem to him, it would snap. And I'm like, what is going on? It's so weak. Something's not right. And I went home, and my husband, the way he is, he keeps everything and seeds, and he's my little keeper. He reminds me to keep in check on some things. But we were looking at the back of the plants because we had just gathered the day before a different area. And he noticed right off the bat, he's like, honey, look at this. Well, we found out, I sent the pictures to Lena Hurd, one of my master weavers, and by the way, we use master lightly too, because we're always learning something too, but my teacher. Anyway, she goes, there is 2 different types. There's the English type, or what we call lady fern, or there's the chain fern, which is a lighter green. I'm like, well, we were in a shady area, but I wasn't sure. But that's the joy of, and the hard part about, long distance learning, because I had nobody around to teach me, and my teachers, are like 100 miles away. So I did find out we had 2 different woodwardias, and so I took some of that down. We talked about it, we shared it, and she said, yes, you actually do have that. And so talking with Margaret Mathewson, she confirmed, you do. And she goes, where is that? Is that out of your area? Is it more north? And I'm like, no, it's right in our reservation. She goes, this is amazing news, because for years I've taught that you guys didn't have it, and I'm going to change that. And I was like, thank you. I felt, acknowledged on that, and it was really amazing to work hard and find those materials. So that's me being all giddy, I guess. And so here is hazel. This is one of our base stick. It's stronger than willow, although I use willow to here too. So the difference you'll see, hazel stick, it kind of does like the jig-jagged look, whereas willow is more straight. I should have probably grabbed 2 of the same size, but I just happened to grab these. But hazel is definitely a lot stronger, and we use it in like our cooking baskets, because when we cook with them, we don't want flavor, because willow has natural medicine of aspirin in it, and we don't want that flavor to come out in our acorn mush. So just a little history on that one. Which these 2 right here are cooking baskets. I've got this one and this one. I need to shape that one. But so the base of this is hazel stick, and then it's willow root that goes around it, and with the basket design overlay is bear grass. Bear grass is like one of the only overlays that won't give off any type of taste or texture or things like that, and it's strong enough that we weave up at the top area where we have our acorn mush paddle. It's not going to touch the design part. If you're curious about the cooking process, so after we've gathered our acorns, and we let those cure also for a year and dry, which takes that little sheath off that gives that, it's got the most tannins in it. Then we can grind them all up and then add water. And the way that we cook with them is with hot rocks from a fire. and we put them in there and keep them moving so it doesn't burn your basket. And it creates that thickness and makes it gel. And it's really good. And of course we do like a water rinse for a few days to get those tannins out so it's not so bitter. It's really good with honey and huckleberries too, and with salmon. And these are some more that I gathered. So I think I showed it in here. Yeah, I did. Right, it should be. This is what, of course, the willow looks like after I've processed it. This was down on the Klamath River and Happy Camp. We were down there for a basket gathering, and we go down there every spring, and we have such a wonderful time meeting up with many different tribal members and going out and gathering and getting to know each other. I've met so many people there, and I love them to death. But we were gathering willow. So back to the woodwardia plants. So this was the pile. We tend to just make a big pile of all the leaves and the seeds, and then when we're all done, we gift them back to the lands. I just always love to see like the breakdown sometimes. This is the woodwardia stem. So when we process it, there's these two stems that are inside of it, and we will dye it with alder bark, and that's how you get that red color. So it's all natural. This is my berry basket. We spoke about the Oregon Folk Life Network. I'm mentoring another tribal member right now, and we're working on our berry baskets. So, but this is what it looks like in raw form before it is dyed with the alder bark. This was also in Happy Camp, and we had a photographer running around and taking pictures. He almost got my good side, but we were stripping. I think I was working them a little bit. And this is me and Brittany Salza, also down in Happy Camp. I went down there. I took a whole year of not touching any root. I went and gathered, of course, but I wasn't weaving with it. I was determined to get down the open weave baskets that you see here. I didn't bring this particular one tonight because that one I was actually working on for a ceremony, so I did not want to bring that just yet. I struggled, and I probably should have brought another basket to show you how terrible it was, but I love it anyways, and I keep it. I honor it because those were my first works. But open weave, stick on stick is very hard. It's hard on your hands. This is just a little gathering basket here. Well, it's not really little, but but I kept finding it wasn't good enough. Like, I loved it, it was beautiful, but Verna was pretty good about saying, tighter, gotta get them closer together, add some more sticks, don't bend them that way, bend them this way, keep those sticks up. You know, she was just on it all the time. But I've had to travel down into Northern California a lot for me I need hands-on, like in-person teachings. It's not easy when we're constantly texting and videoing and, yes, that picture, do that. I'm like, it's just easier if we try to get in person. I love these ladies. I've just dedicated my whole life to the basketry. And I never want to see it sleep again. My goal in life is, before I pass, I would love to see like a handful of teachers that can keep those teachings coming back, because we didn't have that as kids, so we didn't grow up on a lot of our teachings. So I've had to travel constantly and do a lot of documentations and pictures and such, because if something were to happen to me, I don't want the next person to have to go through what I've gone through over the last 13 years. I want it to be easier for them. So this is the inside of that big basket there. This is actually Margaret Mathewson's big lodge. She lets me stay in when I come to see her, and out in, I hope I'm not saying it wrong, Alcia. Alci. Yes. Yes, thank you. So there's times I've came out, and so my main goal was, I was taught a certain rim, but traditionally after all the museums I've traveled to over the years, I noticed all of our baskets had a particular rim weave, and I really wanted to learn that. I wanted what we traditionally did with our baskets. I wanted to teach that to our people. And so I happened to take tons of pictures of course. I've got thousands of pictures from multiple museums, and so I reached out to Margaret and I said, Margaret, do you know this rim? I know you do. And she goes, of course I do. I know about 3 different ones. And I'm like, so you ready for company? She says, absolutely, you come out here. And I should have brought it, but she's got like a wooden block with like this white, I think it's like clothesline material that she chopped up, but it makes it look like spokes on a basket, and that was her teaching mechanism. And so she showed me, and of course I recorded it so I can sit at home and practice on this mechanism she made of how to do that particular rim so that I can bring that back. And I was really proud of that moment. So this is another basket I had, a burden basket, gathering acorn on a Cow Creek Elders property last year. And all those are ready to crack. I'm trying to gather up people here pretty soon. We're gonna start getting real with them. So I'm excited about that. And I'm gonna pull out my Ninja. No, I'm just kidding. I'm really not kidding, but yeah, I am. So these are all cured now, but I love this picture because I had a proud moment with finally using my burden basket. But this is a start. I kind of wanted to show a better start than this one. But I believe this is an acorn mush bowl I was starting. So everything has to be tightly weaved because when it swells, it needs to be able to hold that acorn mush. So lots of love, lots of hand cramping. These ones I really love together. A Siletz elder has these for her family. She wanted a family gift for her and her boys and her. So I put these together for her. Very simplified, but simplified's okay. It's all basketry is gorgeous, and I'm always just proud of it. And like Jacy was saying, you put a lot of love into things that it's very true. This was more of a cone-shaped burden basket. I was just kind of playing with it, and to be honest, and my tribe has this now in the offices, but I giggle every time I look at it now because I see, what's his name from SpongeBob? Squidward. I see Squidward every time I see it, but I've never told him that, but I giggle every time I walk in and I see it, and I'm like, silly me, but this was, of course, right before they got it from me, and it was in front of my Christmas tree. But this was a very proud moment. I really love this basket. I have gathered in it. I made sure to use it very much so, but I love it. So this is my tobacco basket. Another proud moment of this one, bringing this back. We use it during ceremonies or gatherings of the such. This was, and I haven't seen too many with the wolf eye design. We have an 1850s basket sitting in our government offices. I had to play around with it. This is not traditional, but I put a wolf paw on the back just for fun. But it was nice to be able to learn some of the old traditional ways and how we created these pieces. I love the tops of these. I just always feel really blessed to bring back and learn these old ways and we've got traditional tobacco in it. Yeah, I feel honored up and blessed every day. Every time I look at these, I'm in love. I get excited when I get to teach my people. Yeah, I don't want to get too mushy, I'm gonna cry. This was, excuse the messy background. This is my my eel trap or fish trap basket. She stands taller than me. She's 5.5, 6 feet. You saw those pictures earlier with all the different sticks that were gathered on that little turquoise table. That was partially for this. It's so big I don't have room for it. It's at my mother-in-law's. I'm hoping to find a home eventually. I've got to do some work on her, but I was determined. A little funny background is anything I try to make small never happens. This baby basket was supposed to be smaller than this one. That was my first baby basket, and it was supposed to be a miniature. And I have a picture of here in this class with Verna, but yeah, it was supposed to be a miniature, and she's like, I think it's made for a hoopa baby, but yeah, that's what she said to me. I'm like, we got some big cow creakers, but you know. So anything I attempt, it always ends up ginormous. So one day I'd like to use this, but we'll see. Oh, so this is Verna Reese, or what the people call her, Will Verna, but we call her Verna. She's a Karuk elder, and so that was my basket, my baby basket that was supposed to be really small, but I go the whole way. But I wanted to, and I got permissions. You know, I called them up and asked permissions for me to use their pictures too, just out of respect. And she was like, yeah, go ahead. And anyway, so I was really proud of that moment, and I love her. She's awesome. Yep, and that's my gathering partner, my husband. Where he goes absolutely everywhere with me. He makes sure I'm safe, even though there's times I'll go out by myself, or I may even carry if I need to, just to be safe. But it's very rare because he's always with me, making sure I'm safe and helping me gather. And it's kind of been a pain every once in a while because, you know, he'll be like, honey, you know, trying to tell me what to do. If I forget something, he's usually the first to be like, puts me in check. So I love him. These are a couple other of my friends that are my master weavers too. This is Lena Hurd, and we are, and this is Denise McKenzie too, both beautiful weavers. We are in Crescent City, I believe, in that one. But we were out gathering. I think it was after one of the SEBA events, the basket events, and I didn't bring the other picture, but in one of these, we're standing on this huge downed Sitka spruce, and Lena's holding a root this thick, and it's traipsing across all four. I think there was about 6 of us actually there, and she took it home, and her husband was like, but you can get a lot of roots out of that one big root when you split it all down, and it was amazing. She's crazy, and I love her to death. So I said, oh, I'm going to honor you up, so just so you know. So I'm going to set this down here. So a little bit about a lot of this. I range anywhere from a lot of materials I've used. So the hazel sticks, the willow sticks, bear grass. Here's some roots. I made sure to bring a little bit of everything, roots in the raw after we've processed it. This is some really small woodwardia after it's been dyed with alder bark. I didn't bring the maidenhair, but that's how we get a lot of the black, the maidenhair fern. I work with a lot of western red cedar, and I take people out to teach them how to gather that too. I've made lots of baby rattles. This one's old and kind of smushed by my grandbabies. I've even used a lot of tule here, the big tule mat we would use for feasting on, sitting on, laying on, sleeping on. A little bit of everything depending on what size you want to get. This kind of gives you a general idea of some of the cedar. I've made a lot of different things with the cedar. I even have gambling mats that we made. I think it's back here. I like to make these for a lot of our members, and made a few and gifted them out, and some even as thank you gifts. Like I had a friend up in the Grand Ron, and she invited us down and learned some things with her, and so I know they gamble a lot too, and do some traditional gambling, so I made sure to gift her that. And doing a lot of the research on learning, because, you know, again, it's hard to bring back some of our traditions. A lot of research, documentations, things of that sort. I got together with some friends, Lauren Bomlin from the Tolowa, and he had gifted me a bunch of information within our tribes and the Dagama tribes. And found out a lot of information. It was really exciting because I wasn't so sure, like the baby baskets. We weren't so sure if we did more with the seating where it comes up and this is what gives it that strength. Or, you know, there was many people who are like, no, we did more of this. And so what I did find out though is we used them both. Our 10-day baskets were more of this style. Once they got bigger and heavier, they needed that lifted up seat so they can sit on it. And so no matter what we did, we carried our babies around with us while we were cooking or gathering. You know, they'd be perched up against a tree, sleeping or tucked in with, you know, all wrapped up. So that was really neat to find out that we used them both. And so, and then our leaching trays, which is sitting here with all of our jewelry I've made. I'm a jewelry maker, and so the one basket I've never been able to accomplish yet is our basket caps. That is the toughest, and they say if you can make an actual basket cap in our traditional materials, you can make anything. I've gone the complete opposite. I can make everything but a hat. This is actually my first basket cap. I got the top perfect. It was nice and flat, and then when I was starting to turn her up to come down, I went down to Orleans to go weave with Verna and Lisa and all the ladies down there, and they looked at it and like, and I had it down only so far, and it was doing this. I know what my problem was, but I was like, well, I'll just take it out. Verna's good about having me take things out, redo it. And she's like, no, I think that's gonna make a beautiful medallion. And I'm like, what? You're joking again, right? You're a funny woman. She's like, nope. And Lisa's looking at me, she goes, she's serious. I'm like, okay. So next year, I'm dedicating the whole year to a basket cap. I'm taking a break. So yeah, I do make a lot of jewelry, medicine baskets. This one's a fun piece. We surprised my husband with this piece and we even wrote on the back. But I taught my boys. We have two boys, almost 28, 27 and 23. And whenever we could not have Mel around, I taught them how to weave and I helped them. They put that medicine in this piece too. We kind of joke about it because we call it like the Flavor Flav native bling. And the funny story too is some people might know Bob Tom. He's an MC for a lot of powwows, and he had asked for one that was like 6 inches wide. He says, I want big. I want people to be like, what is that on you? You know, he's like, I'm a big man. I don't want them to see me. I'm like, that big? He's like, yep. And then, of course, Mel's like, but I have to have a big one too. I'm not gonna let Bob Tom, outrank me, jeez. But yeah, we call him the flavor. I think I have a picture of my husband being all like funny. It was cute. So not only just basketry, but I do make a lot of regalia, power regalia. I wouldn't say I'm a pro, nothing. Beautiful Jacy over here, but I am proud of some of the work I make, and I strive to learn and show that love too. You have that passion, and I never have a plan either. Any of my basket designs, there's never been a plan. Like, it is what it is. It just comes to you. But I've been trying to make a lot of regalia for my granddaughters. I'm excited because I think our boys are talking like they want to start dancing too. So we're discussing that. My ceremonial regalia over here, this is one of, I think, 7, and this is just the start of it. There's so much more work to be done to her. And then hopefully one day we'll have basket caps too. But for now, I'm working with Dentilium shell, and I love it. But so this was kind of a traditional piece, typically of what we wore. So a lot of shell, probably not in beautiful, basketry designs with these shells that were cut out. But that's our new thing, is kind of playing with it. And then the Dentilium shell, and then the traditional wraps that we did. This piece was for my granddaughter, and kind of the back matches. I should take this off. But we love this piece because when she walks, it sounds like water. We used a lot of Nauset shells too. Nauset shells, Dentilium shells, abalone, as such. There's a lot of it. A lot of beadwork. But I only have one, I think, that's fully done. And so I have a lot of work to go. But I'm excited because it's bringing back that regalia for our ladies. And they have definitely, I've seen a difference in our tribe bringing back some of this medicine, and it's beautiful. It puts me in tears almost every year looking at them. So I do lead my own drum. A lot of songs that were sleeping. We had a gentleman named Sweetwater that was from Florence, Oregon, and he came over back in the 70s. And so I remember as a little girl sitting on his lap, and he'd joke around, like he'd point to me like I was going to lead, and I'm like, I was like 4 years old. But so I got to relearn those songs, listen to some of his tapes that my grandma and them used to record, and so now I'm bringing those back with my family and going from there. I'm excited about that. I've dabbed into a lot of herbalism also. This skirt, I do make a lot of ribbon skirts also, and I wanted to incorporate a lot of our basketry in them, so I was pretty proud of that. And for the most part, I think that's pretty much it. I'm just looking forward to just constantly dedicating my work for our people and never letting it sleep again, and thinking of the next 7 generations. So, thank you.
Acosia, Beth'Ann. Beth'Ann's work weaves traditions and legacy as a way to tell stories. Being able to work with these natural and traditional materials is really what we call the real true fine art. The regalias, this is real high fashion. These are the original materials that were used before they started using fabrics and yarns and stuff like that. Gathering for basket weaving takes time and teaches a lot of patience. It's a very humbling practice. Gatherers teach us to never take more than we need and to always leave a little for the next and always to leave some to continue to grow for the next generations. Weaving with natural and traditional materials have become a lost art. As you can see, it takes a lot longer to work with these older materials. For one, you have to gather them. I mean, she was even talking about letting some things sit for over a year to be able to even work with them or eat them or utilize them. But it's women like Beth'Ann and Jacy who have preserved these traditions, taken the time to learn them. Some people really don't have the desire to learn them. You know, Native people were living in many different worlds. We're trying to live in today's world and also carry on our traditions. And a lot of times in some of our generations, you know, it was lost. Some of our parents weren't really carrying on the culture, weren't really carrying on the language because it was taken from them. There was a time not even 100 years ago that we weren't allowed to dance these dances, to sing the songs, to work with these things. A lot of our songs and dances were hidden. A lot of our traditional sacred objects and materials, even regalias, were hidden and sometimes buried in order for them to be preserved and to be able to bring them out when it was safe for those things to be brought out again. And so how much we have got to preserve and what a privilege it is to even be able to have these practices, these ways, and these gifts today. Her relationship with these materials remind us that we are land-based cultures, all of us, not just Native people, but all people are Indigenous. Even people who consider themselves non-Indigenous, because I've traveled to many different continents, and there's always a history of the people who lived spiritually, tribally, and primal with the seasons, with the land, in relationship to the land. We are all Indigenous, and we all have Indigenous knowledge within us. It's really important for us to tap back into that so that we can move into the future with a more sustainable mindset, with more of a relationship to the land and to one another. So being able to see her relationship with these materials and that it's still being carried on gives us hope for the future. A lot of our songs and dances, I already said that. So we're going to take a break. We want to thank Beth'Ann and Jacy for sharing their knowledge with us. We're going to take a 10 to 15 minute break for you to get up and move your legs, go to the restroom, and then we're going to come back and I will present dance, and we will also be presenting storytelling. So we'll see you back here in about 10 or 15 minutes. Thank you. Welcome back in, everybody. Thank you for staying. It is an honor to be sharing space with these culture keepers tonight and also with all of you. My story tonight will be about dance and how several forms of movement saved my life. My story also starts at a very young age. How do we start this? This is me when I was a little girl, dressed in a dress that was probably made by my grandmother. I'm from the Umatilla tribe. We're confederated tribes, the Umatilla, Cayuse, and Walla Walla. A lot of tribes in the Northwest are confederated tribes because there were so many tribes in each place that sometimes they would just bunch us all onto one reservation. I mean, some tribes have like 12 or 15 tribes in one. Our tribes are the Umatilla, the Cayuse, and the Walla Walla people. So we are the Plateau region, the Salmon people. I grew up, this is my sister Winix, and we grew up in a family of 4 children, my mother and father. My father is a Umatilla tribal member. My mother is Scottish, Dutch, French, and Norwegian, with a little bit of Seneca and Mi'kmaq from the Eastern tribes. Mom and Dad got together back in the 60s, and Dad was an auto body guy and Mom was an artist. So she taught Dad the color code of mixing paints, and they started an auto body business together. this was my sister and I together. So mom and dad ran the auto body business, and that was our van that we cruised everywhere in, back before there were seatbelt laws. I'm 45, so I was born in 1979. I was just a few months old when Mount St. Helens erupted. I like to think that my life has been full of fire and ash. When I was 6 years old, I caught on fire. I stood in front of the fireplace with a dress that my mother had made, these amazing ruffle dresses for us that flared out. We were getting ready for the Christmas program. And so we had a fire going, and mom and dad and my brothers were outside working on a car. They were water sanding or maybe taping off a vehicle, and we were gonna go to the Christmas program after that. So my sister and I were dressed in these dresses, and my sister went to stoke the fire, and she forgot to close the screen. Now, we had a fireplace that you could lean up against. We called it Darth Vader. My dad bought this fireplace that didn't even really put off a lot of heat, but it looked really cool. And we called it Darth Vader, so you could lean up against it, you know? And so I leaned up against it. We had just learned the stop, drop, and roll at school before we got let out for Christmas break. My dress touched the fire and started burning. And my sister was screaming, yelling at me to stop, drop, and roll, but I couldn't even, I was in shock, so I just kept running. I ran all around the living room until my sister was trying to put the fire out with her hands, and she burnt her hands. Our Schnauzer dog had gotten a lot of burns also from pieces of my velvet dress that were falling off and burning him. I finally made it outside, and my sister pushed me down and rolled me. So she saved my life with a stop, drop, and roll. Although she always blamed herself for me catching on fire, but I never seen it that way. I always seen it as that Nick saved my life. And she always had a lot of trauma with that too. So my story starts kind of on fire. And I think I've lived my whole life like I've been on fire. I spent 3 months in the Burn Concern Center here at Emmanuel Hospital. And I had to receive skin grafts. I burned half of my body at that age, was back of my back down to right below my knees, and then skin grafts all in the front. So very traumatic childhood. Was very outgoing before that, and then after the fire, I became very, very mean. I was very mean for a long time. This is the fireplace that we're standing in front of. This was after I had gotten home, and the newspaper had came and did a little thing about my sister saving my life. Eventually, I started rebelling. I was very, very angry as a kid. My father, who was also a boarding school survivor, so was my grandmother, he couldn't really handle the fact that his little baby girl, who was his youngest, and my dad really had us in all sports. He wanted us to be so good at everything. He was really proud of his kids, and when this happened, it really hurt him. And there wasn't a lot of resources back then, and even if there was, our aunties and uncles and parents were too proud and didn't trust those programs. They didn't trust going to the doctor. They didn't trust getting help. And so my dad actually ended up passing away on my 8th birthday when my mom had ran away with us to Albuquerque. There was a lot of trauma growing up. I was really, really mad at the world. I felt really sorry for myself, and because of that, I projected that as being really, really tough. Growing up on the res, especially back in those days, there was a lot of fighting. You kind of had to fight to get respect, or that's what we thought. So we grew up fighting a lot. And I think that just really says a lot about where I was in life. I really didn't know who I was. I was really ashamed of what had happened to me. I mean, sometimes my own friends or people at school would call me turkey legs because of my skin grafts. So I never wore anything short. I was very much a tomboy, and I never let anybody see my scars, and I was just very, very brass around the edges. I used to always go to the Longhouse, and I would watch the dancers dance, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I wish I could go out there and be that proud, because the dancers are so proud when they're dancing. Everybody's watching. Sometimes they're not even dancing. They're just walking around out there, just being confident in who they are. And I always wished that I could feel that. I always also wished that I could be a dancer. But powwow dancing was so hard. Even just the 1-2, 1-2 basic step can be really, really hard. And so I started practicing. My sister had won a cloth outfit for me in a raffle. And she brought it home and was like, now you can start practicing. So I started practicing every day because I'm a Libra and I have to be good at something before I do it in public. I was very perfectionist about it. I practiced every day for like a year. And I thought I was ready, but I really wasn't. And then my sister Winnix had a jingle dress made for me for Christmas. And I opened it up for Christmas and I was like, oh my God. And then I'm like, oh my God, there's a Christmas powwow tonight and I have to dance. She's like, now you can go dance at the powwow. And I was like, so excited, but then I got really nervous and I was like, I don't have feathers, I don't have any hair ties. And she's like, we're getting it all for you tonight. The family's gonna come look on, meaning they were in mourning. None of their family was dancing at that time. So they had constructed this regalia for me and wanted to come look on and watch me dance. So I knew I had to dance that night. And the first time I entered the dance floor as a jingle dancer, because I did grow up going to the longhouse powwows with just a shawl and a wing dress, and we would dance around the powwows, but my family was not a powwow family. They stayed close to home. We only danced when there was longhouse powwows. So I went to the powwow that night and I was so nervous to enter the arena. And I remember just wanting to find a way to quit. Like I wanted to find a way to like not do it. And grand entry was happening and I remember dancing in at the longhouse powwow and I came dancing in and I just remember being really, really, really nervous. And then a few steps in, I remember like feeling a big sense of like a big sigh and then I started crying. And I was crying when I danced. A lot of times when I first started dancing, I would be crying because I could feel so much emotion. I missed every stop. I didn't really know the songs that well. I leaned way back when I first started dancing. I don't even know how I danced like that, but everybody came up and was like, you look so good. Oh, we're so happy to see you dancing. And because I had been rebelling and not really doing anything in life that was positive, it made me feel really good about myself. It made me feel like I was a part of something bigger than I had been in before. It made me feel like I was a part of something bigger. It gave me a sense of identity because also growing up as a half-breed, sometimes you're not really sure where you fit in or where you belong. That changed my life that day. I ended up getting lost on what they call the powwow trail. And I ended up meeting my kids' father, Paris Layton. He was the best traditional dancer at the time, amazing dancer, amazing artist. And when I met him, he was like, you're gonna be the champion jingle dancer of the world one day. And we all just started laughing, and he's like, no, I'm serious. And we were like, whoa. We were like, oh my God, I can't believe Paris said that, you know, like. Eventually, Paris and I ended up getting together. I didn't compete. When I first started dancing, I was totally against dancing for money. I was totally just about dancing for the people. I never wanted to compete in it. But when I got with Paris, he was a competitive powwow dancer. And I remember going to a powwow at Welpinet with him in Washington, a competition powwow, a pretty big one for Labor Day weekend. And I had one dress, one pair of leggings and moccasins that were cloth, a scarf that went around my neck, and these shell hair ties that were always put in the wrong place. One time I was dancing and the shells were just going like this. Well, that was a 4-day powwow, and at that powwow, when they announced winners, you had to stay fully dressed. And that was kind of nerve-wracking because they're announcing winners, and if you don't place, you're still standing there in full regalia. When I first started dancing, it was a lot of ego. I very much followed the competition. I wanted to be a competitive powwow dancer. I wanted to be really good at it, and I really wanted to become well known at it. I was going through a lot in my life when I found dancing, and I was like, this is gonna help me heal and feel better about myself. I'm gonna become a competitive powwow dancer, jingle dancer. And so when I started dancing, Paris had gotten me these drop feathers. He just fixed me up better, painted my face, put all my regalia on, taught me some really good tips on how to stay on beat, on how to listen to the song, on what to think and what not to think, on how to go around and shake hands with people and talk to people and talk to the Golden Age dancers who are the elders, and just really like be a good person, because you know, he was always talking about how we're always getting judged on and off the dance floor. And to be a good dancer, a competitor, you also have to be a good person. So I really took it upon myself to go and make my rounds and talk to as many people as I can. And I really became a part of the powwow circle. We had 2 children. He already had 2 children who became my stepkids. That's why I learned how to French braid and learned how to make outfits, because I was making regalia for them. That's all we did, was make regalia. We lived that totally powwow lifestyle. We didn't listen to any music except for powwow music. All we did was sit and sew and bead and prepare for the next powwows. We lived with the teepee poles on the van. We traveled to every powwow with the teepee poles and set the teepee up, and then we would stay in like hotels and stuff during the week. But both of our kids were conceived in that teepee. And we raised the kids on the powwow trail. So here's a picture of our family minus my stepdaughter, Denise. Raising the kids on the powwow trail was really special because it's something that they will always have with them. They have a strong sense of family. I would always say, if anything ever happened to me, you have your powwow family that will always take care of you. They learned a lot about other cultures, other tribes, traveling. We would always have them write little things about what they learned from the tribe, because they usually missed Monday and Friday of school. So we would have to come back with a reason. Well, she created this book to tell the class what she learned while she was on this trip. My son Paris experiences autism, so he was always hand in hand like this. Dancing star, my daughter was the social butterfly, and that's how we made all of our friends back then. So we powwowed everywhere. My kids were always with me. I don't think I ever was away from my kids until they were like 12 years old, because we powwowed everywhere until I finally moved home. Well, then they grow up, and then you continue on teaching them and bringing them out there and giving them that sense of pride and identity in who they are, making sure that they're comfortable out there in the dance arena and that they are continuing to travel, dance, learn, and build family through that powwow circuit. This is the first picture I ever did in a calendar. So then there was like powwow calendars. And if you were a really good dancer, you would get to be in one of the powwow calendars, because these photographers would take pictures at big powwows. And so I remember doing my little decade of a lot of calendars, and I always thought that was cool. That's the first dress I ever made. And I was 21 years old. And then fast forward, so when I started dancing, I would have dreams about being a jingle dancer. I went to some powwows with some of my friends that were already powwow dancers, and they taught me a lot about powwow. This was before I met Paris. I wanted to be a jingle dancer, but jingle dancing doesn't come from my tribe. And so I had a lot of dreams about being a jingle dancer. I would always dream about being at powwows and dancing jingle. This is at the Gathering of Nations. It's like one of the biggest powwows in powwow world in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I really like this picture because it shows how confident I am when I dance. And I'm not always that confident. It's when I put my regalia on is when I feel very confident in that way. This is Gathering of Nations. I used to dream about this powwow, and I ended up going on to win it 10 times. It was a really big deal, and I used to always say that when people would ask like things about me. I was like, oh, well, I won Gathering of Nations. I never talk about it anymore because my life has changed so much now. I really don't talk that much about being a champion dancer at Gathering or any of that, but really that's the stepping stone of everything that I do today, because all of my work revolves around the name I had built for myself as a jingle dancer. When I started jingle dancing, I was going through a lot of trauma. I had caught on fire, my dad had passed away. I seen a lot of crazy stuff growing up on the res from our elders, and also the stuff we got into. And so I had a lot of healing to do. Powwow changed my life. For one, it made me healthy because I was active. It gave me a healthy outlet, and it also changed the way that I think and the way that I interact with people. It changed the way that I felt about myself. I was always taught to go around and treat people with respect, to be kind to people, to take good care of myself, to take good care and respect other things. And I always attribute that to when I found powwow. Powwow had really changed my life. Tonight, my thing is all about how movement is medicine and how it changes us. The powwow is full of healing modalities. There's the drum. It's the center of the whole powwow. The drum is considered the heartbeat of our people. And it's a call and response. Our songs and dances are a call and response, and that's what life is in general. I responded to the call when I had the dreams of being a jingle dancer, and it literally changed my life. If I wouldn't have never taken that step, I'm not sure where I would be. Jingle dancing it literally changed my DNA. You know, they say that we can change change the DNA in our body by movement and the power of thought. And so this powwow dancing really gave me identity. I started being asked to speak because I was performing, right? And there was always someone speaking, and then one day he's like, we're gonna introduce this jingle dancer, here you go. And I was like, what? He's like, tell the story of the jingle dance. And I was so nervous because I was not a public speaker. I mean, people used to call me a mute when I was a kid because I didn't talk, I was so shy. Powwow dancing really helped me to trust my voice. So I remember taking the mic that day and telling what I had heard, because I always learned all these origin stories as I traveled. I already had them in here. I started being asked to lead and speak. All these regalias that I'm wearing were made by myself, by my ex-husband from the past, and then more recent ones, my mother, my sister helped me. These are all contemporary. I'm a contemporary jingle dancer. So when I dance at the end of my presentation, you'll see that my footwork and everything is very flashy. There are two styles of dance at powwows. There's the old style, and then there's contemporary. Every single category and every style of dance has an old style and a contemporary. Because there's some people who want to stay completely true to those traditional, original steps and ways of dress, the way that they'll dress themselves in their regalia. And then there's other dancers who are evolving with the times, who want to be way more expressive when they dance. They want to let the music flow through them and let it, and then respond to it. So you'll notice that contemporary dancers are very flashy. They use a lot of flashy materials because we're always evolving with the times we evolve, and we've always been able to adapt to what's available to us. So when you go to a powwow today, you'll notice that a lot of dancers have really flashy regalias, neon materials, painted face, rhinestones. Heck, I even seen a fancy dancer with these like lights on when he was dancing, and it was lighting up. So I'm a contemporary dancer. And then, you know, powwow saved my life. And then I ended up divorcing my husband, who I experienced negative relationship with that person, and I needed to get out. But we were raising kids too, so that was very hard. And so I finally found a time to leave in 2008, and I moved back home because we were living in California. That was really hard for me because I got with their father at 18 years old. That's all I knew. But I also wanted to be my own person. I was very controlled, and a lot of abuse was happening, and I just really wanted to be my own person, and I would envision being with all these people and that I had something to share. And I envisioned it so many times, and eventually I got the courage to leave. And when I left, we moved back to Pendleton, and that's when I started getting asked to speak at events. I started utilizing all the knowledge that I had learned with him and along the way to start teaching classes for dancing on my reservation. That really helped me to trust my voice. Well, then I was going through a lot of trauma again, because then I was going through a divorce. My life had changed. I didn't know what I was doing or where I was. I felt a big void in my life. And then my friend had introduced me to a yoga class. And I grew up doing gymnastics, so I wanted to do the splits again. And I wanted to be able to do handstands. So it was all very like ego, like I wanted to be able to do all this cool stuff. So I went to my first yoga class, and the lady was like, you know, my mom's a spiritual healer. So I grew up being very exposed to spirituality, to ceremonies, to different healings, from native healings to non-native healings. And one thing that I knew between all of those is that how powerful the power of thought was. And so when I was at that first yoga class, she was like, take a deep breath and let it go. And I just started crying. And you know, I guess I knew, but I didn't really know what yoga was. And that's when I was like, oh my gosh, I have to get certified so that I can teach yoga and bring this to, you know, reservations and help our people heal through movement and the power of thought, because it helps you to gain control of your life on so many levels. And it is a tool for healing. There's also prophecies from many different native prophets through the last 2 centuries that talked about in the future there would be a gift that was brought to us by the Eastern tribes, and that it would bring balance and harmony into our lives. To me, I could be wrong, but to me that was yoga. It was how yoga had changed my life. It had, when I started powwow dancing, I was very proud of myself, but it was surface level. It was very showy. When I found yoga, I really learned how to love myself. I let go of my scars. I let go of all of the things that I was embarrassed of or ashamed of. And I don't know, it just changed me on a deep, deep level. And I wanted everyone else to find out how to do that too. And so I started trying to travel to I was like, I'm going to take this to reservations. But most natives at that time were like, no, we don't do yoga. That's not our tradition. We don't want to appropriate. And so it was like trying to reintroduce yoga. I remember one person saying, yeah, this hippie woman brought yoga here. It was really weird. I'm like, let us reintroduce yoga in a way that we can also use our own traditional teachings with it, and that it can help us to gain back control of our health in our body physically, that it could help us to get down to the center of ourselves, to accept all the things that have happened to us, and learn to love ourselves more, to learn to clear our passageways with our breath, to learn how to, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, this practice can do so much. And so I had started trying to add powwow dance to it, because some natives were like, this is too slow, you know? So I would add a little bit of powwow dance, and then we would do yoga, and then we would powwow dance and do yoga. And so I ended up creating a practice called powwow yoga. And it was a chance for some of my friends that have never powwow danced to learn how to powwow dance. And then it was a chance for some of my friends that were really against yoga to do yoga. And so it was kind of a way to get everybody out of their comfort zone, and get out of their head and into their body. Because we have so much work to do as Native people, you know, addiction, dysfunction, abuse, neglect, all of that stems from not feeling good about yourself. Growing up Native, especially in my era, we were dirty little Indians. And I never say that because I hate saying that, but that's true. We were led to believe this thing about ourselves. We went to mostly an all-white school back in those. We have our own tribal school now, but we didn't back then. And I never felt good enough. We always felt like we had to prove ourselves all the time. And so yoga gave me confidence in who I was. And I wanted to be able to share that with Native people, a way for them to start healing at a different level. And so I started traveling, teaching powwow yoga, also teaching 7 generations yoga, just bringing traditional teachings into our yoga practice. And it really changed my life. I started teaching classes, and this is my daughter right here on the right. Teaching classes is something that I love to do so much. It's a chance for people to gather, to move and sweat together with the overall intention of wellness. We all want to feel good in our bodies. And sometimes the hardest part is showing up. Whether you're setting up a yoga mat in your living room or showing up to a class, the hardest part is showing up. And I really it just does something for me teaching these classes. It's helping people find solutions to their everyday problems and how to get healthy, how to gain control of their life again. When you can help a woman feel powerful in who they are again, it's going to ripple into their whole entire family. So it was about helping some of our friends and families that weren't feeling too good, that didn't know where else to go. Nothing else maybe was working. And it was a chance to show them this tool that they could use that could actually change their DNA at the cellular level with a belief system and the power of thought connected to breath and body, and believing that you are changing as you're moving through. It's modern ceremony because we're gathering to move in unison, to sweat together, to heal together. These classes are really important to me, and this is basically what I do today, which is why I don't talk about the powwow winnings anymore, because they're like, what do you do? I'm like, I teach yoga and I teach powwow dancing to tribal youth. I travel all across the United States and Canada and sometimes internationally teaching to tribal youth how to dance, for one. Also teaching yoga. Everywhere I go, I'm like, can I teach a yoga class if it's not already for teaching yoga? And I teach yoga and powwow dance and movement in as many places that I can because it leaves an impact. People are emotionally changed just from one class. And when you can change one person's life, then you know you've done your job. I want people to know that they have the ability to heal themselves and that movement is medicine. When we move our body, we're moving physically. We're moving the matter. We're moving the water. Water carries memories. Our body already knows what to do when it cries, when it sweats, to get rid of these toxins, to get rid of memories that we're holding on to. Sometimes we like to hoard and set up furniture for our traumas because it becomes our whole life story. Well, it's important for us to move our body, to shake things up. When we move our body, we're moving through emotional storage. When we sweat, when we cry, we're releasing toxins, we're releasing traumatic emotional events that have happened and stayed stuck in our bodies. Those emotions stay stuck and they start forming into tension, balls of tension, which can lead to pain and disease. Tension is emotional experiences held in time and space. And so it's held in our fascia, it's held in our bodies. Issues live in our tissues. So when we move our body, whether it's bouncing, whether it's running, dancing, something that's moving our body around, we are able to release stored trauma, we're able to heal ourselves, and on the cellular level, we're releasing physically, we are releasing energetically, and as we move through any kind of physical, we always meet resistance. You want to quit, you're tired, you're like, I'm done, you know, like whenever you get really tired. In my classes, I'm always teaching the youth, like, it doesn't start until you want to give up. Let's break the pattern of giving up when something gets hard. We need to push through all of that, open up our passageways, clear the resistance in our mind. And so movement on many different levels. Physical movement, movement of emotion and thought, old programming, limiting beliefs, old karma, old contracts, maybe even from past life, lineage from this lifetime. We're carrying so much in our bodies, and my message is that movement is medicine. Every single one of these movements has changed my life. I even found house music, dancing at clubs, changed my life because the music got under my skin. It was a repetitive beat, like electronic music. Even that, so it also taught me that sound was medicine. All of our regalias make noise. And all of those noises have been studied by science today to say, yes, those sounds heal the body at this level or this level. Every single one of our dances has an origin story and has something that sound of that dance heals people. The dance that I'm going to be dancing for you guys today is called the jingle dance. This is a jingle dress. It does not come from Oregon tribes. However, I'm an Oregon tribal woman, and this was the dress and dance that called out to me when I wanted to become a powwow dancer. Powwow dancing is kind of a universal event for Native people, so not necessarily you have to be from that tribe to dance that style. I wanted to be a jingle dancer. It called out to me. I followed the call and responded, and it really changed my life. This dance comes from the Great Lakes area, from the Anishinaabe people. This dance is one of the newer dances, and it came to be from a dream. This dance came to be around 1918 when there was a flu pandemic. And there was many people who were dying, and this young girl was on her deathbed, and her father, who was a medicine man, went to seek vision so he could save his daughter. He went into ceremony. They would gather at the longhouses to dance for healing. Women never danced back then. It was always the men. The women would stand around the sides and either bounce or lulu. It was never men that did this. Warriors would war cry. Women lulu'd. And if you go around the world, women lulu in many tribes for the same reasons. It's like a blessing. It's like when you're at church and you're like, amen. It kind of reminds me of that, because when you're at ceremony or somewhere and somebody says something really powerful, everyone will just start luluing. So it was, how did I get on that part? I branched off. We talked about this. We were like, don't go out there with the plan. I'm like, but I branch off a lot. Sometimes I can't remember the route. So the story of, yes, thank you. So he went into ceremony to seek vision, and when he was in his vision, he was brought to the Northern Lights by the Northern Lights spirit people. And it was there that they had given him a lot of knowledge about the future and things to come, and that they would send him home with a gift to heal the people. The gift was actually a sound. It was the sound of the Northern Lights. And tonight, when you leave here, you can look up what sound do the Northern Lights makes. They make two different sounds really distinctly, and one of them sounds like many women dancing together. It's like a clashing. And then one of the other noises sounds like lasers shooting. Listen to, like when one woman is walking in a dress, it sounds like that sound. When many women are dancing, it sounds like the other sound. So he came back with this gift, and the gift was a sound, and it was to be created by women. He instructed the women on how to make these dresses that were going to make these noises. They played around with a lot of different materials, shells, pieces of wood, different bones and hooves. They could never find the sound until Hudson Bay Company was already around, and they were already buying these chewing tobacco things. And so they took the lids and they rolled it in a cone and realized that when they hit each other, it sounded like the Northern Lights. So the women had constructed these dresses, and they had asked permission for these 3 women to dance in the longhouse, and they agreed to let them. And so the women came dancing out. Traditional old style jingle dancing is very close to the ground, hands are on the hips, your feet never leave. Weave like this. Well, the women came out to dance, and everybody sat up in curiosity of this sound. And the little girl who was ill, Maggie White, she walked out there to dance with these women, and she ended up dancing all the way around in the arena with them. She lived a full life to be 100 and some years old. Many people in the longhouse survived that day. This dance grew in numbers. They started teaching it, and it traveled outward from that community. And it became there would be hundreds of jingle dancers gathering for healing. To this day, jingle dance is still a ceremony. They gather in longhouses in the Great Lakes area to have feasts, somebody getting married, somebody is graduating college, somebody just passed away, somebody is ill. Different reasons that you would need prayer and blessings for. And they'll gather to have feasts. Many women come, they dance. They never do the straight dance. They only do the side step. But do it like this. You'll notice that when I dance contemporary, I'm gonna go up on the beat. People find their different rhythms. Everybody finds the beat in a different way and carries a different rhythm. The women have brought this healing dance around decades and decades of healing dance, but the jingle dance found its way into the powwow arena. And powwow arena became a competitive sport, and it is native sport. And people have their favorite dancers, their favorite drum groups, their favorite styles, their favorite regalias. And so it really is a way of life for a lot of people to powwow dance. And so the jingle dance has become one of the most popular dances in the powwow arena. I like this dance because of how the dress speaks to us and because the women hold themselves with so much grace and so much honor, but there's still so much happening down here. When we dance, it's a way for us to express ourselves. We don't have any set choreography. We don't know what's gonna happen till the next moment. I mean, sometimes we know what moves transition good into other ones, but we really don't have a plan. It happens as you go, and you never really know what's gonna happen. So it's very intuitive, and that's why I really love powwow dancing. I like teaching my yoga classes intuitively. I like teaching powwow dance intuitively without coming in with a plan and let it happen the way it's supposed to happen. Like tonight, I'm probably gonna be like, I didn't say all those things that I was gonna say, but whatever was said is what was supposed to be said. I like to say too that like energy does not move forward if it doesn't feel safe. Powwow gives us a safe space to move energy. It continues in this circle, it builds and builds and builds, and it's a way for us to heal and to move energy in a safe space. And yeah, I pretty much said everything that I had on that paper. So I'm gonna go ahead and get ready to dance for you guys. These last couple of slides just show the unity that builds in our yoga circles. I like to gather everybody in these circles before we close out to get into that circle and to just become one together. Movement is medicine, and when we move our bodies, we heal. So I hope that you enjoy my dance performance tonight. I'm going to be dancing 2 songs for you guys. The first song will be a straight song. I have a recording because we didn't have a drum group. The first song is sung by the boys, and then the second song is a side step called Waterkeeper by Northern Cree. Thank you so much. It really is a very high impact, high energy dance. We were always told that we're dancing for those who can't dance. So when we get tired, we keep dancing, because there's people who have lost that ability to move their bodies freely that way. Our elders, friends and relatives who are in wheelchairs, friends and relatives who are walking the streets that are lost right now, brothers and sisters who are incarcerated, people who are struggling and have lost their dance. So when we get tired, they always say, "You keep dancing for those who can't dance." And so sometimes you feel like walking off, but you remember it's just a few more moments, and that you have the ability to do it, and what a privilege it is to be alive and to be able to move our bodies and to push our lungs, to feel our heart beating, to feel the sweat beating off of our skin, letting us know that we are alive and that our body is alive and responding. Thank you, because it takes all of us. It's a spectator's event as well. It's not just me dancing up here. It's not just Jacy speaking. Each one of you are speaking along with us, are dancing along with us, are here to learn. And how much that says about us as a group, that we are the people who are making those changes for the future. Because we're honored that you guys care about our culture enough to come and sit 3 hours with us. So give yourselves a round of applause for showing up. Give yourselves a round of applause. We're thankful for you, that you see us, that you care about this knowledge, that you care about us as a people. So thank you so much. Okay. We have one more knowledge keeper who will be sharing storytelling tonight. Patricia Whereat Phillips, Patty, is a Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Sayusla traditional storyteller and language keeper. She is an enrolled member of the Confederated Tribes of Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Sayusla Indians. A 2015 master artist with the Oregon Folklife Network Traditional Arts Apprenticeship Program. Patty learned tribal history and traditions from her father and other tribal elders. She has also authored a book on ethnobotany of the Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Sayusla Indians, Oregon State University Press, 2016, and is expanding her work to other tribal languages from her home by building word lists of the Milleq, Coos, and Sayusla languages. Patty is deeply committed to recovering, telling, and passing on traditional stories, including their performance context. Please welcome Patty Whereat Phillips.
Wow. Gala, thank you. Nashachi Chamani, Shindaisla, Daichilsla. My name is Patty. I am from, she was saying, Confederate Tribes, Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Sayusla from Oregon's central and southern coast. So maybe I brought a little bit of that, sea salt air with me over the coast range over here. There we go. So, yes, for many years, I have been really interested in language. Along with my cousin Anna, we are working together to teach 3 languages in our tribe. This is why my poor brain hurts. It's trying to just learn and teach 1 language is a lot. 3? Whew. And as part of the language, an interest I've had for a long time is place names in the languages and stories, because there's so many places that have a traditional native name and have a story or stories associated with them. And so I work in my community to bring back those stories, keep telling those stories, bringing them back out, because for a long time people weren't telling those stories as much, or maybe only telling them in their house to like a couple of family members. So a lot of people didn't get a chance to learn those stories. I'm trying to bring them back out a bit more. So this is a picture of the sea by Baldiasa, Cape Arago. There is a story associated with this area. It's a kind of a teaching story. We have many different kinds of stories, and some are teaching stories to remind people how to behave or how not to behave, things not to do. And near this place, they say a long time ago, lived a very poor man. And one day, he married a woman who was also very poor. They did not have their own house. They would stay with other relatives all the time. But what he did have is he had some fishing equipment, some fishing line and hooks and nets and a basket and a fish club. And he would go out around the rocks near here, cast his lines out and his nets every day and sing and catch fish. And as the sun would get lower in the sky, it was time to pack everything up, go back up the cliff, go home. So one day he went out doing same as he always did, casting out his lines and his nets, but this was not a good day because his lines and his nets stayed empty. And finally, the sun's getting lower in the sky, and he knew it was time to pack things up and get home before it was dark, and he was feeling sad because he had no fish to bring home. But he went back out again the next day, hoping that the next day would change his luck. It did not change. Once again, nothing. And the sun was getting lower as the afternoon went on. Finally, it was low enough. He's like, oh, he had to pack things up, and he was feeling very, very sad now. This is 2 days in a row now, no fish. Well, as he's hauling in that last net, he's very startled because now finally there is a fish. Finally, the first one in 2 days. And he hauls it out and sets it in front of him, and he's a little bit puzzled because he's looking at this fish and he just doesn't recognize it. It's a kind of a fish he'd just never seen before. He's like, well, this is different. He's like, well, I'm hungry. This is the first fish in 2 days. Fish is fish. I'm going to take it home. So he went to reach for his fish club so he could club it, put it in his basket, go home. Well, before he could club it, the fish spoke. Wait. If you do not harm me, I can bring you good fortune. Man was like, wow, okay. So he set that club down and he took the fish and he put the fish back in the sea. And the fish said, okay, when you are out, pay attention. I will send things for you to find that are valuable. They will be gifts, appreciate them. And so the man went home, told his wife. She probably thought he was crazy, I don't know. But indeed, the fish became his tchinach power, his good luck, his wealth power. And when he would go out, he would find things like a sea otter, because in the old days, sea otter hides were very valuable for seals and other things. And they eventually acquired enough wealth. He could hire lots of people to help him build his own plank house. And they were living very, very comfortably. But as time went by, his wife thought, this is really nice, but man, wouldn't it be really nice to have 10 sea otter hides and lots of money shells, like very fancy at gatherings. And so she went to her husband one day and she says, hey, go call your fish friend and tell him you want 10 sea otter hides. And even just one sea otter hide was very valuable, and to ask for 10 was just like, oh my gosh, that's a lot to go out and just ask for all at once. He's like, doesn't feel right. This is not a good idea. And she says, oh, come on. What's the harm in asking? No, it's just not right. They kept arguing and arguing. And finally, the man is like, okay, I'll go ask. So he went down to the rocks, looked out over the water, and he hollered, hello. Nothing. He kept calling for a while, and finally he could see something moving in the water. And it came closer and closer. It came right up to where he was standing. And the fish poked its nose out of the water. It was like, ditch to hot, what do you want? And the fish is like, you have become greedy. You want things too much. It is not good to spend your time wanting more and more things. Because you have become greedy, you will no longer have tlchinach. You will be poor again all the rest of your days. And then the fish went back in the water, turned around, swam away. And indeed, he lost his tlchinach, his good fortune, and he and his wife did become poor again the rest of their days. And they used to tell this story to remind people it is not good to spend your mental energy on being greedy, on wanting more and more things. And whenever I'm out at Cape Ergo, I see the lighthouse that's out there. I remember that story because they say that's where that happened a long time ago. A little bit up the coast, I'm guessing folks probably recognize this place. I've been told it's the most photographed point on the Oregon coast. If it's not the most, it's probably in the top 5, known as Hasita Head today, but to the Sayusla people, it's called Tluis. And in the days of the Palichach, the first people before human beings were in the world, Hasita didn't exist, at least not like this. A little bit south of here, at a place called Sutton Creek today, known as Tliach, there was 5 grizzly bear brothers living, and these brothers were mean. When people would try and travel along the beach, north or south, sometimes the grizzlies would attack and eat them up, and there wasn't even safety in numbers because there's 5 brothers, so even if there were several people traveling, they might get attacked and eaten up. And everybody else got sick and tired of these mean, scary, dangerous grizzly bears eating travelers. So people got together and had a meeting. What are we going to do about those scary grizzly brothers at Tliach? They're eating people. So people had a big discussion. We're trying to think, they're too big and too powerful and too scary to attack directly. We gotta find something sneaky and trick them so they don't even know, that they're about to be killed. So the people decided, okay, we're gonna set up some games and feasts. And so they built Tluis, this big rock wall, and they planned for it to be like a race where people would try and climb up to the top. And so then they sent around messengers to tell people, hey, come to these games and these feasts. So the Grizzly brothers heard about it. And the oldest brother said, well, I'll go check it out, see if it's any fun. I'll let you know. So Grizzly goes up, and he stands on the beach that's down below there, watching people trying to climb it. It's so steep and so sheer. Everybody had a helper at the top, and they had a rope to help them get up. And Grizzly's watching this, and he's very unimpressed. You people are all a bunch of wimps. Look at you. You got rope. You got helpers. Puh. I am Grizzly. I am so strong. I don't need a rope, and I don't need a helper. Great, Grizzly. Come on, join in. Come on. So Grizzly, he gets down there at the base of the cliff, and he reaches up and he tries to, get his claws in there so he can start to pull himself up. But that rock is too tough even for Grizzly. So finally he says, all right, give me a rope. So they drop a rope down, and he ties it around himself, and they start to help him up. And he's scrambling along. Now the people, as soon as he's getting near the top, black bear and raccoon are watching. They're kind of slowing down. And so he's trying to stretch his neck out. But bear's at the ready, gets a club, boom, right in the head of Grizzly, and he dies. And they just chuck his body down into the sea. Well, there's 4 Grizzly brothers sitting at home, and they're like, we haven't heard anything from eldest brother. So the next brother goes and he asks people, have you seen my eldest brother? And everybody tells him, oh yeah, he was here a little bit earlier. His favorite game, is there at this big rock wall. So why don't you just hang out there? He should be along anytime. So he does. He plays the game. He gets knocked in the head and dispatched also. 3 brothers sitting at home. Well, no one has sent us any messages. So brother number 3 goes up. They all tell him, oh, your brothers are around. Go play the game while you wait. They should be along any old time. So he plays to pass the time. Boom. They take him out too. 4th brother comes up. They talk him into playing the game. They dispatch him same way. So now there's just one lonely youngest brother living at home. He goes to bed that night. He has a dream, and the dream tells him that all of his brothers are dead. So he wakes up very concerned and worried and agitated because he's like thinking to himself, is the dream true? Are my brothers dead? He wasn't sure. He was afraid it was true, but he didn't want it to be true. So he goes up to Hasita and he's asking people about his brothers, but he's being a little more suspicious and very watchful. And they all tell him, go to the big rock wall there and play. He does, but he's, peripheral vision, paying attention. So when he gets to the top, he sees the movement of them reaching for the club. And he jerks himself back, and he just tumbles down into the water. And he starts to swim to the west, further away from shore. And he's really upset. Oh, my dream was true. My brothers are dead. Then he turns north, swims for a bit, and then comes towards the shore. He comes up where Waldport is today. And little old Wren woman lives there. And she sees Grizzly coming out of the surf, and she knows Grizzly is bad news. She knows who he is. But Wren, she's smart. So she sees this Grizzly coming, and she pretends to be kind to him. She's like, oh, grandson, you're just wet and miserable. Come into the house. Sit by the fire. So he does. He wants revenge on the people who killed his brothers, but he has wet fur, and he's kind of hungry. So he figures he's going to rest a bit before going back south and having his revenge. So Wren builds up her fire. She's putting some cooking rocks in the fire. She's being very busy, and Grizzly drifts off to sleep. Now, Wren, in that cooking basket, she doesn't put food in there. She's got pitch and gravel. And she takes tongs and drops hot rocks in there when the rocks are getting hot. And Grizzly is snoring. And that pitch is boiling. So then she takes the basket and pours the boiling pitch into his mouth. But it doesn't kill him. Just makes him mad. And he wakes up and he jumps up. I'm going to get you. And he's trying to chase her around and grab her, but she's tiny and she's quick. And she grabs a knife. And then she runs at Grizzly, runs between his teeth down into his throat and into his chest. Because in our stories, the only way you can get rid of a monster forever is destroy their heart. And Wren, she knows this. So she cuts out his heart from the inside. And then she has to come back out. And she says, that's when the last people come, which is the human beings, you will run away from them. Well, turns out old Wren wasn't always right about that. Grizzlies don't always run from you. Sometimes they run towards you. But that was the end of the mean old grizzly bear brothers from Cliach. And next time you're at Stewie's, maybe you'll remember that story. Not all of our stories are on the ocean side. Some are in the interior, in the Coast Range. This is a picture of Silver Falls, which is way up Glen Creek, which is part of Melcoma River. There's a little state park up there. It's very gorgeous. Not a lot of people go up there because it's kind of a pain to get to. It's a long drive. The people on the bay all had fish camps up the river, some of them pretty far up. So kind of chasing the salmon and the lampreys, they migrate up. So one year, one of the fish camps up there, people were fishing. They got lots of fish. They had some fish laying in canoes that needed to be processed in the morning, but something suddenly started coming around the night, taking practically all the fish every night. What the heck's going on? So they set up a watch. Well, in the night came one of the Sheshwaya, the giant people. They're like 8, 9 feet tall, and they have these like really big hands with long fingers, and he just reach in there and he could hook a finger into the gill of a salmon, so he could just like carry 5 salmon on one hand. So the people rushed out, and the way to kind of freeze one of these Sheshwaya in their tracks is grab their long hair. So they did that. He like, ooh, didn't move. And they talked to him and said, hey, you can't keep taking our fish. You got to leave those alone. Those, we've been working for those. There's plenty of fish in the river. You don't need to take ours. So then the giant set them down. They let him go. He went back into the woods, and he quit bothering that camp. So fishing on Coos River can be exciting. You just never know when the giant people might come around and steal your fish. And then we have some landscapes that kind of aren't there anymore, or at least are a lot different. This is an undated photo from Douglas County Museum in Roseburg of Smith River Falls, and not the Smith River in California, but the Smith River that's part of the Umpqua River watershed. There are falls that are a lot shorter than this today because Fish and Game in their infinite wisdom thought that salmon and lamprey needed help migrating over the falls, even though These, even back in the day, were teeny compared to Celilo. If salmon can get up Celilo, come on. So sadly, they dynamited the falls and then put in some cement fish ladder thingies on the side. It's not the same, but there is a Kluichiloromko story associated with this place, and take a look in the picture and see if there's something that looks like a little image, because she's going to maybe come up later. So anyway, Bufflehead Duck and her grandson were very poor, and the grandmother was raising her grandson, and she had a fish spear for him. She taught him how to fish. When he became an adult, one day he had a dream that told him if he went to this place, he would find great wealth. So he got up in the morning, and he picked up his sole possession, his fish spear, and he was going to set out, and his grandmother asked him, "What are you doing?" And he told her, "I had a dream. I need to go to this place. I will have great wealth if I go there." And Grandma was worried. Well, he set out, and he walked, and he walked. But it's way up there, so he didn't make it in one day. Night came, and he just lay down under a tree to sleep for the night, lay down his fish spear next to him, and he had that same dream during the night, that if he went to this place, he would find great wealth. So he got up in the morning just determined to get there, and he picks up his spear and he keeps walking. In the afternoon, he got to the falls, and in the falls was a strange bird perched on a little rock jutting out of the falls. Anybody see a bird up there? You see a little bird image up there. And it was a strange bird. He hadn't seen one like it before, and so he's curious about it, and he took his fish spear and he was trying to hook it. He couldn't quite reach it, though. And the bird just dove down into the splash pool. And kind of on impulse, he just kind of set down his spear and jumped in the water and dived in down too. Well, to his surprise, under the falls, under the water, was a house. In front of the house sat a woman. And she says, "Hey, you almost got me with that fish spear." And it was the bird. She had transformed herself. And she called him, "My husband. Hey, come into the house here. My father is here. Many relatives are here. Come in." So he went into the house, and it was a big house inside, and there was all kinds of people in there, like snakes and cougars and everything. He was a little scared at first, because he's a stranger here. And he's like, but he went to go talk to his new father-in-law, and people treated him well, so he was feeling pretty good about things. Meanwhile, up on land, Bufflehead grandmother was really worried about her grandson, and she went to find some distant relatives and say, "Hey, grandson went off on this journey, and I'm so worried about him." So they went to try and track him, and they tracked him all the way up to the falls, but no further. His tracks ended. The fish spear was there, but no sign of him and no further sign of tracks. So they had to tell grandmother, "Well, he got up to the falls, but we don't know what happened after that. We lost the trail." Grandmother was sad. So he's in this underwater world, and after 5 days, his new wife tells him, "Hey, we're going to go back and visit your relatives, so we're going to set up a special canoe, but when you get in there, you have to get down in the bottom and close your eyes and don't open them till I tell you, okay?" So he gets in the canoe, and he closes his eyes, and he can hear movement, lots of sound like rushing wind, rushing water, and then he hears the ocean waves. And she says, "Okay, you can look." So he sits up, looks around, and they're offshore, just offshore of Tsachanich, better known as Takanich today, a little bit north of the Umpqua River. And they haul ashore there, and there's a fish camp at the creek there. So he goes and tells his cousins, "Hi, it's me, Bufflehead grandson." And people didn't recognize him at first. He'd changed, during those days in that other world. So he had to tell them who he was, and they sent messengers to bring up his grandmother, who was super happy that her grandson was alive and well. So then he, grandmother, and his new wife went to Winchester Bay to live for many years. And then one day, Bufflehead grandson called a couple of fish ducks, some coots over, said, "Hey, you guys, take a message everywhere. Tell people we're going to have a big celebration here at Winchester Bay." So they went out and took the message out to everybody. And soon canoes were hauling into Winchester Bay from all over the place. And they had several days worth of games and feasting. And then the last day, he called everybody together for a big meeting. And he said, "Well, I and my wife are going to move away from here. But before I go, I want to do something." And then to each of the people, he gave them a bird name. So all kinds of different birds. And they all became all these different kinds of little birds. And that's why we have so many like little brown and little gray birds today, so many species. He had a lot of names to hand out. And then indeed, he and his wife left the Winchester Bay country and have not been back since. But we still have a lot of different bird people. And that is that story. And so I think I'll wind it up because it's 10 o'clock.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank you all for staying here with us. We really appreciate Patricia's storytelling because storytellers really are our original oral histories. All of our stories were passed down person to person, generation by generation. A lot of tribes, most tribes did not have written languages. Nothing was written, not even our songs. Many of our stories tell how animals taught us lessons and how their actions and behaviors a long, long time ago really shaped our land and our sacred sites. Storytelling are our oral histories and how our stories are passed down. In the old days, it was the storyteller who everyone gathered around. It was our first form of entertainment. Everybody wanted to hear the stories that the storytellers had to tell. Storytellers connect us to our land-based culture because, like I said, all of these stories of our creation stories were given to us by the actions of the animals and the plants and the way that the land and the animals had interacted with one another. So thank you, Patricia, for sharing that with us. We want to end tonight with a round dance. Anybody who is willing to come down and join us in the circle, no pressure. But if you'd like to join us, we'd really love to have each of you come down, make a big circle with us, and we're gonna end with a circle dance. So we hope that you can join us. We can just make a big circle. It's a very simple step. It's just basically you're going to step with your left foot. You're going to be stepping to the left on the beat. Some people may be in an inside circle, so it might be two circles. I'll start stepping with that left foot, and you're going to step to the left. You're welcome to join in the circle as well.
Thank you.
Joining us in this circle, and we'll let Matthew go ahead and close out for us.
Oh, I just wanted to thank all of our wonderful culture bearers. Please give a round of applause. Beth'Ann, Jacy, Patty, Acosia, Cassie, and our wonderful crew. Thank you so much to our crew for all of their hard work. Thank you all for sticking with us, Acosia.
Feel free to go ahead and walk by. You can look at some of the regalias and stuff, but please do not touch. Thank you for coming.